Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be going over my May and June reads. Let's get into it. I have a little paper over here to reference what I've read, because sometimes I can't remember everything that I've read. So, to start off with, we are finishing the tandem read of Tower of Dawn and Empire Storms, which is part of the Throne of Glass series. And I love both of these books. I don't know why Tower of Dawn gets much hate. The character building that Sarah J. Maas does, so good. I can't say much in this book because it's a continuation of the series. So these are our two that we have completed so far. I rated Tower of Dawn 4.5 stars, just like I rated Empire of Storms 4.5 stars. I don't understand why it gets so much hate. I love the romance and the characters in these books. Moving on, next I have Dating After the End of the World by Geneva Rose. And I read this on Kindle because it was on Kindle Unlimited. And the concept is really cute. I like the idea of a romance after the end of the world. And I like the father figure in this. I also like the descriptions were really good, really immersive, for the gory effect, for the safe house, her apartment. However, I wasn't connecting with the female main character very well, and some of the events that happened were pretty predictable in my opinion. And honestly, the romance was not that believable either. So I only rated it 2 out of 5 stars. Basically what happens is this woman becomes a doctor or a nurse, I don't quite remember, and she is engaged to the other doctor in the hospital, and a virus breaks out and typical apocalyptic stuff happens. However, she was training for this for her entire life, so she hated her dad. She was bullied in high school because her dad was a prepper, a doomsday prepper. So she finally goes back to his house, and her childhood bully is there. To me, the romance wasn't that believable, and some of the characters were also not believable, like her best friend or her brother's girlfriend. It seemed very rushed in my opinion. Okay, moving on, we have Kingdom of Ash, finishing out the Throne of Glass after that wreck. This is the finale to the Throne of Glass series. I loved it. For my girlies who know, I do want that second book with Dorian and his love interest. And not second book, I guess it would be the 8th book. However, I'm content without it being. I felt like this was a great wrap up to the series. I sobbed my eyes out. This book impaled me in the heart, and then also at the same time stitched it back together. So 10 out of 10 for Sarah J. Maas. The next book that I read was The Deal. This is your typical hockey romance. She is a music major in university, and he is the lead hockey player, and they start fake dating so that she could get with a football guy and make him jealous. And it does end up working, but by the time she realizes, it's already too late. I thought the scenes were really cute in this. However, I only did rate it a 3-star because whenever we were in our male main character's head, it was dragging on. And he could not have not one non-sexual thought about her. Like, their first interaction, he was talking about her hips and her small waist. Like, I hate how women are sometimes perceived instantly like that, especially in romance books. It really turns me off. From the book, I guess, but in other ways too. Anyways, I did read it in one sitting. It was a really fun read. I don't know if I'll continue the series. I might read Allie's book. Her character seems really interesting. And I read this right before the Off Campus show came out on Amazon. And it was good. The book was good, but I do actually think the show was better, and I liked how they portrayed all the different characters. I thought that was really interesting. So, minus points for Garrett's dirty mind, literally throughout the entire book. I hated being in his head, but love all of the scenes. I love the writing. I love how fast I read it. So, 3 stars. The last book that I have for the month of May is Dragonfruit by Makia. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. I definitely did. Makia Lucifer. And this is a YA fantasy romance book, but I feel like fantasy romance gets portrayed way too often. It's definitely more of a indigenous magic system set in a fantasy world. And there is a subplot of romance, but nothing crazy happens. There's no sexually explicit scenes, nothing like that. And I feel like he is one of the main characters. However, their love is very pushed to the side, which I liked. I rated it 3.5 stars. I thought it was very interesting. However, the writing style didn't allow me to really be connected with our characters. Trigger warning in this about animal abuse and animal death, because some dragons are slain, unfortunately. And she even lays with some of the dragons that are slain. I thought this was a really interesting book. Basically, we are following Hannah and Sam. Hannah is trying to search for a dragon egg while also trying to come home, because these dragon eggs, they basically grant one wish, and their princess, which is Sam's mother, has fallen sick and cannot wake up. When she was younger, she was also sick, and this is all in the back of the book and in the very first couple of chapters, so there's no spoilers. When Hannah was first introduced, she was sick, and her father stole the dragon egg that was meant for the princess and gave it to her instead. That allowed her to have a certain connection with dragons, and she was tracking one down so that, one, she could avenge her father because she and her were exiled, and 2, so she could return home, right her wrong, or her father's wrong. I really liked it. Like I said, was not super connected with the characters, and therefore rated it lower because I wasn't connected with them as well. However, the descriptions were really good. The storyline overall was good, and I liked the magic system. There are some parts that feel slower and then speed up really fast, unexpectedly. But other than that, this is really good. Okay, now to get into my June reads. I started off my June reads with Every Summer After. Of course, after watching all of Off Campus, I had to watch Every Year After. So, because that was coming out, I needed to read the book first. And Every Summer After follows Percy and Sam, where they go back and forth through their childhood and into their adulthood. So it's a timeline shifting POV, which is really interesting. In the adult part, Percy is revisiting the summer home that her parents had, where she had met Sam and his brother Charlie, as well as their mother. And their mother unfortunately passes away from cancer, so she is back there for the funeral. Throughout her adult life, she is revisiting the scenes that she had once set for herself when she was a child. We also get her POV as a child of Sam and her growing up, meeting each other slowly, maybe falling in love, definitely falling in love. You know what you're getting into as a romance book. But then there's a huge plot twist at the end, and everybody lowers their rating after this. And I have heard similar experiences to Sam and Persephone, and I feel really empathetic for them, and I feel like the author did a very good job of writing what that feels like. And I thought it was really good overall. The romance was still good, amazing, and I was kicking my feet and giggling because I literally listened to this in 7.5 hours straight. So, that's my thoughts on that. And of course, 5 stars. The next book that I read is Close to You by Nisa Renzo. She is an indie author, and I believe this is her first book she has published. And it's about a deaf girl, Milo, who has very traumatic events happen to her by her father. She's 5 years old when this happens in before. And she goes mute. And so this mute girl is adopted into the family of the firefighter who actually finds her. And this is introduced in the first and second chapters, so no spoilers here. Right after she is adopted into this family, she learns sign language, American Sign Language. She's able to communicate with everybody, but she is still not able to use her voice. So this goes through the process of her finding her voice in a way, and of course falling in love with one of the characters. It is a forbidden romance, but it is, to be honest, so wholesome. Her romance is technically her adopted brother. However, they meet each other around 7 years old. They have always acted and known each other as more than siblings. They don't even call each other brother and sister. So I feel like it's written in a way that it doesn't creep you out. Anyways, the yearning, it's always been you trope, it's so great. I loved it so much. 4.5 stars. Amazing. I do say though, check your trigger warnings before going into this. It's very, very traumatic experience. The next book that I read was One Golden Summer, the sequel to Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This follows, my bird got to the book. It's very unfortunate. I am so sad that's happened, so please ignore this. I'm sorry, I'll cover it with my finger. This follows Charlie, which is Sam's brother, and his love interest, and we get to see why he's kind of an asshole, why he's kind of a jokester. We get to see him in his adult life. Allie brings out the best and the worst in him, and I love them for it. This was honestly, I didn't understand their banter for like the first 150 pages, and I didn't understand why Allie liked Charlie like at all. However, the behind the book in this book actually made it a 5-star, as well as the ending. The ending just tied it all in for me, and really was a great explanation to why Charlie acted the way that he did in book 1 and book 2, and that made it a 5-star for me because I love Charlie now. So basically, Allie is a photographer, and she took this picture of 2 boys and a girl on a yellow boat, which if you have read Every Summer After, you know that boat is very important for the lake days for the summer. Very iconic, I guess I should say. And she actually won a prize because of this and was recognized and started her photographic career with that photo. So those people in her photo were really important for her career and for finding her love. So she loves this place, and she comes back to it for a last little summer with her grandmother before they sell the house, before their friend sells the house. And I loved Nan. I love Nan, and I forget her friend's name who owns the house, but those two of her cute together. I'm glad their problem was resolved. And of course, I love Charlie and I almost said Sam. I do love Charlie and Sam. I love Charlie and Allie in this book. Next, I finished Yesteryear by Sarah Clare Burke. This was an interesting read. I rated it 3.5 stars. I wasn't expecting it to end the way that it did. I guess that there would be more magic. I won't reveal the twist to you, but it is a pretty interesting twist, and I think with that twist said, it's very lit-fic, in my opinion, and it's a commentary on feminism. It's a commentary on progressive and conservative Christianity. There are a lot of references. It is fun. It's like a psychological thriller, and it is funny, sarcastically funny. So, very interesting read. If you don't know what it's about a trad wife who is living in today's world, and she gets transported back into the 1850s where she actually has to be a trad wife. And it's a very, very interesting experience to read about. I listened mostly to it with the audiobook, and I would recommend the audiobook if you wanted to listen to it. The narrator is pretty good. Okay, and that is it for all of my physical copies of the books. This last couple weeks I've been on a Kindle kick. So the next book that I have is The Song of Salt and Shadow by Saren Rose, and this is her first published book, so good job on that author. It came out June 3rd. I really liked it. I liked the magic system. Oh, let me tell you what it's about. It's about a siren who doesn't have a tail and isn't able to fully use her song, and a pirate who is cursed helps her on her journey to find her missing piece. What I liked about it was the magic system was so cool. There are different seas where there's different magic within the seas. So one restores all your physical wounds, but you lose your memory. One puts you into a deep sleep where you'll just be circling the seas for hours or days and you don't know how much time has passed. One has deadly sirens that are found nowhere else in all of the seas. Like, that magic system is such a cool concept. I really liked it. The second thing that I liked about it was the curse that was put on the pirates. I won't say much about that because it is a big plot point, but it was really cool to find out what was going on. And I liked the romance for the most part between the female main character and the male main character. However, some of their romance wasn't as believable. However, it really is true enemies to lovers. Like, I did not like the captain when I first met him, but we slowly get to understand his character, and I feel like everything that happens in the end explains, kind of like Charlie, explains what was going on in his head as he made the decisions that he made. However, there are a couple of things that made this a 3-star instead of like a 4-star, which is what I wanted to rate it. The first thing is, this is a little petty because I graduated with English in English, and I'm currently working on that. I teach English, so the punctuation and the em-dashes were really bad. Unfortunately, like, I'm sorry, but that's what they were. That's what I have to say about that. That's the first one that just immediately dropped it a 1/2 star for me. And the second one came at the end, where I felt like she didn't fully accept herself in the end. No matter what resolution happens, she never really fully accepts herself. And for example, in the beginning of the book, throughout the entire book, she calls her inner self her siren. So the siren in me or my siren. And at the end of the book, that doesn't really change. She never really accepts herself as a siren. And to me, that's not accepting part of yourself, even though it is you. And so that really irritated me. And also dropped it a star, so it's a 3-star out of 5 now. The second to last book I read was Blood of Hercules by Jesmyn Maas, and I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off. I only rated it 2.5 stars out of 5. Basically, the female main character, the beginning of her life is really sad. She is adopted into this abusive family, and she has a brother who is also with her. Their only hope, it's a post-apocalyptic world that still are devoted to like Greek gods and figures. I unfortunately just did not like it. Their only chance of survival is if she passes this test in high school that can help them in prestige into the next part of their life. And when she does the blood test, because there's magic in this world, of course, at the end of the test, it gives a different reaction on the paper, which was really cool. So they had to send her to this academy that trains Trojans. Here she meets many people who are interested in her, but she just never realizes it. She never realizes these people are interested in her. There is a professor-student relationship, but the age gap isn't crazy, so it's fine. But I didn't really like any of the male main like characters or love interests. I did think that she was a badass. She was really cool as a main character, and I liked her powers. However, the main reason why this is a 2.5 star is I didn't like the romance. I felt like with her trauma, they way overstepped their boundaries as the male main characters did. Multiple of them. I did not like the ending either. I don't know if I'll continue this story. I might do it out of spite to see what happens. But I really did not like this series and how it ended and where it's going. I'm not even interested to see if she ends up with one of them because I don't like either and all of them. So, that's my thoughts on that. Lastly, for the month of June, I read Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I had read Bride, which is the first book in this interconnected standalone, but also not standalones. I think it's an interconnected series. But Mate does take place after Bride, so you really do need to read Bride first. Anyway, I had read Bride last year at some point, I think in the winter months, and then I finally picked up Mate, and I rated it 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed it. I loved so I can't really explain what goes on in this book because it'll spoil a lot of the other things, but basically this is Misery's best friend. It's her book. And what I liked about it is there is misdiagnosis, especially female diagnosis from doctors. There is not understanding a woman's body that plays into it. And then, of course, we have Cohen. Oh my god, he is so hot. Some of the tropes are he talks her through her episodes. He knows what's wrong with her, but other people don't. She will sacrifice herself for him. Something that I really didn't like about Bride was the action scenes were not fully fledged. And however, I think this book was more thought out and the action scenes were more thought out. There is one scene that I felt like got cut off a little short and then kind of wrapped it up in a little bow. And I understand Ali is a romance author, not a fantasy or action thriller type of author. However, I did see improvement from Bride. So I really liked that as well. So that is it for all of the books that I read in May and June pictured here. Let's fill out our book journal. Welcome back to my reading journal, everybody. Tower of Dawn was 4.5 stars. Dating After the End of the World was 2 stars. Kingdom of Ash was 5 stars. The Deal was 3 stars. And Dragon Fruit was 3.5 stars. Every Summer After was 5 stars. Close to You was 4.5. When Golden Summer was 5 stars. Yesteryear was 3.5 stars. Song of Salt and Shadow was 3 stars. Bullet of Hercules was 2 stars. And Mate was 4.25 stars. Alright, now let's finish our book goal tracker. Tower of Dawn, like I said, was 4 stars. 4.5 stars. Dating After the End of the World was 2 stars. Kingdom of Ash was 5 stars. The Deal by Elle Kennedy was 3 stars. Dragon Fruit was 3.5. Every Summer After was 5 stars. Close to You was 4.25 stars. One Golden Summer was 5 stars. Yesteryear was 3.5 stars. The Song of Salt and Shadow was 3 stars. Blood of Hercules was 2 stars. And Mate was 4.25 stars. So far so good. No DNFs and no 1 stars. I should probably try to start doing more 1 stars and DNFing books. If it's a 2 star, perhaps I should rethink my evaluation. Let's move on to the monthly reading tracker. In May, we read 5 books. In June, we read 7 books. Favorite book showdown. Let's see. My favorite book in May, it had to be Kingdom of Ash, of course. And in June, my favorite book had to be Every Summer After or One Golden Summer. I'm going to choose Every Summer After because that is the start of the duology. And to be honest, they are my favorite couple. Okay, and between the two, it of course has to be Kingdom of Ash. And I'm going to add a box because I was seeing breakdowns that were a little bit better than the one that I found. And they had these two fight. So that's what I'm going to do. So between Heir of Fire and Project Hail Mary, it has got to be Project Hail Mary. And between Project Hail Mary and Kingdom of Ash, wow, this one was really tricky because I loved Project Hail Mary. And of course, I loved Kingdom of Ash as the finale. This one I read almost in one sitting. And this one is an amazing finale, like I said. Ooh, which one should I choose? Okay, I literally sat here for 2 minutes trying to figure out which one I wanted to do, but I think I'm going to do Project Hail Mary. It was such an experience being able to see this with my book club. And because of that experience and because of the community that it brought online together, I think it has to be our winner. So for the first half of the year, Project Hail Mary is our winner. And then next month I'll put in a little picture of Project Hail Mary here. We do not have any DNF or 1 stars. Perhaps I will get better at doing this for next month. The last thing that I have to fill out in my book journal is my book library of the books that I read. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Alright, here is the completed bookshelf so far. I added these two. It is very cute so far. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed my May and June reading wrapped up, as well as filling out those months in my book journal. I had so much fun filming this video. Comment down below if you want me to do more book scrapping in filling out my journal. I wanted to cut out some boring bits, but if you want more of that in there, more of the artwork and writing everything down, I definitely could do that. I'm still learning. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye!